Discover the exciting story of the fall of the wall of Jericho and how faith in God can overthrow the greatest obstacles. Today, we will dive into the biblical history of the fall of the wall of Jericho, an incredible account of how trust in God can lead us beyond our limits. Get ready for a narrative full of emotion and powerful lessons. Imagine yourself before the imposing walls of the fortified city of Jericho, built with massive stones and an insurmountable defensive structure. The walls surrounded the city, lifting tall and imposing, challenging any enemy to dare to challenge them. Jericho was known for his impressive architecture and for being an impregnable stronghold where people felt safe within their protected limits. However, for Joshua and his army, those walls represented more than a physical barrier. They were the symbol of the challenge they would have to overcome to achieve divine promise. After days of preparation and strategy, Joshua's army was ready for the imminent challenge. The soldiers gathered around their leader, certain eyes reflecting the confidence placed in the divine promise. Joshua, with his unshakable courage and unshakable faith, inspired each of the warriors to believe in the impossible. The weapons were sharp, the positioned shields, the hearts pulsing in unison. It was time to face Jericho, not just as a physical battle, but as a test of faith and obedience. The sun shone over the Israeli camp, while the army was preparing to march toward the imposing walls of the fortified city. The tension in the air was palpable, but the determination in each face was unshakable. Joshua led his people with wisdom and courage, ready to challenge expectations and witness the divine power to manifest himself before his eyes. As the sun was on the horizon, Joshua reflected on the immensity of his task before him. Divine promise echoed in his mind, filling his heart with determination and hope. He knew he was not alone on that journey, that the Almighty God was by his side, guiding each step and strengthening his faith. In the midst of the calm of the night, a sense of peace invaded Joshua's soul, dissipating any trace of doubt or fear. He felt the divine presence surrounding him as a protective cloak, preparing him for the challenge that would come with the birth of the new day. The stars sparkled in the dark sky, silent witnesses of the greatness of the approaching moment. And it was under the soft light of the moon that Joshua renewed his oath of faithfulness to God, ready to lead his people towards the promised victory. Joshua's unrestricted obedience to divine guidelines is crucial to the coming victory. Each step taken by the leader and his army is marked by absolute confidence in God's plan. The thorough instructions are strictly followed, without hesitation or deviation. Joshua leads with determination and courage, inspiring each soldier to remain firm in his position, even in the face of the grandeur of the walls of Jericho. Obedience is not just a duty, but a demonstration of unshakable faith in divine promise. Each gesture, each word refers to total delivery to the greater purpose that guides them. It is through sincere and unquestionable obedience that the way for the manifestation of God's power in the coming battle. The seventh day dawns in Jericho, and the expectation hangs in the air like a dense mist. Joshua's army is ready to follow divine instructions to the letter, waiting for the right time to act. Each soldier remains in position, the fixed looks in the imposing walls surrounding the city. Silence reigns in the Israeli camp, only the soft sound of the wind cuts the stillness in the morning. Joshua leads his people on an idle around Jericho, once a day for 6 consecutive days, according to the guidelines received. The trumpets sound shrill, echoing through the deserted streets of the fortified city. The inhabitants of Jericho observe astonished the repeated ritual, without understanding the meaning behind those apparently unusual actions. On the 7th day, the divine order is clear 7 turns around the walls and a unison war cry. The faith of the warriors is put to the test at that decisive moment, trusting that God's power will manifest itself greatly in the face of apparent impossibility. Every step taken by Joshua and his army resonates with determination and hope, challenging human expectations and embracing the certainty of the supernatural. And when the last cry echoes through the heavens, the walls tremble in the face of the divine presence and collapse in a deafening crash, revealing the victory of the faithful about the insurmountable obstacles. As the people of Israel marched around the walls of Jericho, a solemn silence hovered over the city. The inhabitants watched the scene astonished, without understanding the meaning behind the seemingly unusual strategy. The 7th day dawned with an atmosphere loaded with expectation and mystery. Joshua and his warriors, in perfect sync, followed divine instructions to the letter, confident in the supernatural power that was about to manifest. As the turns around the walls succeeded, an aura of reverence and faith involved the Israeli camp. The trumpets sounded in unison, echoing like a divine call that resonated in the hearts of the faithful. At the decisive moment, when the war cry broke the morning silence, a tremor pervaded the millennial stones of the walls of Jericho. The floor shaved under the feet of the soldiers as they witnessed the impossible to come true before their unbelieving eyes. A deafening crash echoed through the air, and slowly the imposing walls began to crumble in a majestic and amazing show. Solid stone blocks collapsed in cascade, revealing the magnitude of the divine miracle that culminated in the victory of the faithful servants on non-transponable adversity. The fall of the walls of Jericho was not just a historical event, it was the manifestation of God's supreme power and faithfulness to those who place their unshakable trust in them. How many times do we come across walls in our lives? They are invisible barriers that prevent us from moving forward, fears that paralyze us, doubts that haunt us. These walls can manifest in many ways: the fear of failure, the pain of a difficult past, insecurity about the future. Each of us faces their own challenges, their own walls to transpose. However, just as Joshua and his army trusted the divine promise to overthrow the walls of Jericho, we can also deposit our faith in God to overcome the adversities that stand before us. The fall of the walls of Jericho was not just a miracle of the past, it is a powerful reminder that when we trust God and follow their guidelines with unshakable faith, even the highest and most impenetrable walls can collapse in the face of the greatness of their power. May this story inspire us to look at our own walls with courage and hope, knowing that with God by our side, no barrier is unsurpassed. The walls of Jericho represented much more than an insurmountable physical barrier. They were the reflection of the invisible walls that we often built in our lives, walls of fear, pain, insecurity, and impossibilities. Each stone of those walls symbolized the obstacles that prevent us from advancing, the self-imposed limitations that keep us trapped in our comfort zone. Just as the walls of Jericho seemed impenetrable to human eyes, we also face seemingly insurmountable challenges in our way. However, history reminds us that when we trust God and follow its guidelines with unshakable faith, even the highest and most imposing walls can collapse in the face of divine power. It is not just about the size of the wall, but the magnitude of our confidence in the Creator. May the fall of the walls of Jericho be a powerful reminder that with God by our side, there is no wall that cannot be overthrown. It is not about the size of the wall. It's about the size of our trust in God. This simple but deeply significant phrase invites us to reflect on the essence of faith and trust in God. Often we see ourselves in the face of walls that seem insurmountable, obstacles that challenge us and make us doubt our own abilities. However, the history of the fall of the wall of Jericho reminds us that it is not the magnitude of the challenge that determines our success, but the firmness of our faith in divine power. When we fully trust God, when we deliver our fears and uncertainties into your hands, the highest and most imposing walls cannot resist the grandeur of your intervention. Each stone that makes up the walls of our lives can be overthrown by the power of our confidence in the Creator. May we learn from Jericho, who, regardless of the size of the barriers we face, the true victory lies in the certainty that God is with us, guiding us and strengthening us at each step of the way. As we contemplate the fall of the imposing walls of Jericho, we are remembered of the transforming power of faith combined with obedience to divine instructions. The narrative invites us to reflect on the walls in our own lives, whether of fear, pain, insecurity, or impossibilities. Just as Joshua and his army trusted God's plan to overthrow the barriers that separated them from divine promise, we are challenged to deposit our confidence in the Creator to overcome the obstacles that seem insurmountable. When we submit to God's will with unshakable faith, we witness the power of the supernatural acting in our favor. May the story of Jericho echo in our hearts as a constant reminder that it is not the time of the wall that determines our victory, but the depth of our trust in God. May we follow divine instructions with courage and determination, knowing that when God speaks, even the highest and most impenetrable walls fall in the face of the grandeur of His intervention. If you also want to see the walls in your life collapse before the divine power, leave your comment telling how this story impacted you. Don't forget to like and share this video to reach more people with this transformative message. I hope you enjoyed this trip through the biblical history of the fall of the wall of Jericho. Always remember, when God speaks, the walls fall. Until the next video, stay with God.